Imagine this. You win a massive war, and you capture your enemy's most sacred, most powerful object. It's the ultimate trophy. But what if, instead of bringing you glory, it unleashes a devastating plague on your people? Well, that's exactly what happens in this story about the Ark of the Lord and the terrifying consequences for anyone who dared to possess it.
I mean, this is the exact nightmare the Philistines found themselves in. They captured the ark, which they knew was this incredible symbol of divine power, but suddenly all that power was aimed directly at them. So what do? What's the game plan when your greatest prize is literally trying to destroy you?
So, for 7 long, agonizing months, the Philistines are stuck with the ark. And for those same 7 months, they are just getting hammered. A mysterious plague starts sweeping through their cities, hitting everyone from the rulers on down. Their amazing victory had turned into an absolute crisis.
7 months. Just let that sink in. That's over 200 days of watching your people get sick with tumors while your entire country is overrun by rats. The pressure was on, and they knew they had to figure something out, and fast, before there was nothing left to save.
Finally, they hit a breaking point. The Philistine rulers go to their own experts, their priests and diviners, and their question is just dripping with fear and desperation. What do we do with this thing? Tell us how to send it back where it came from. They're not talking about victory anymore. They're talking about survival.
So the advisors come up with a plan. But, oh no, this wasn't going to be a simple return to sender. It was this incredibly specific, kind of bizarre ritual. The whole point was to appease the very powerful and obviously very angry God they had offended.
At the heart of this plan is something called a guilt offering. See, the idea is you can't just return stolen sacred property and call it a day. You have to formally admit you were wrong, and you have to send a gift, a big one, to make things right. Only then, the advisors said, might the plague actually stop.
And this wasn't just any old offering. It was a really detailed 4-step process. They had to make these symbolic gold models, build a cart that had never, ever been used before, and then find 2 mother cows that had never had a yoke on them. Every single detail was absolutely crucial.
The offering itself was just so specific. They were told to make 5 gold tumors and 5 gold rats. You see what they're doing? They are directly copying the plagues that were destroying them. Each little gold model was like a tiny, solid confession of the exact punishment they were dealing with.
Now, to get the rulers to actually agree to this strange plan, the diviners pull out their trump card, history. They remind them of the story of the Egyptians and what happened when they stubbornly defied the God of Israel. That story was a famous, terrifying lesson, and the Philistines were not about to make the same mistake.
But here's the truly brilliant part of the plan. It had a test built right into it, a way to find out for sure if all this suffering was really from a god or if it was all just one massive, terrible coincidence. And the test subjects? Those 2 mother cows.
Okay, so here's the setup, and it's genius. These were mother cows, and their calves had just been taken away from them. Now, what is a mother cow's deepest instinct? To go back to her babies, right? So the test was simple. If these cows, against every natural instinct, walked in a straight line toward the Israelite town of Beth Shemesh, it was proof. It was a divine act. But if they did anything else, wandered off, turned back, then it was all just random chance.
And the result? It was completely undeniable. The cows, mooing the whole way, walked in a perfectly straight line directly toward Beth Shemesh. They didn't turn to the right, didn't turn to the left, they totally ignored their crying calves. For the Philistine rulers who were watching this whole thing from a distance, the test was over. The disaster was real and it was divine.
All right, so the ark is finally back home. You'd think this would be a moment for a huge celebration, right? The enemy is dealt with, the sacred object is returned. But this is where the story takes a sudden, and I mean horrifying turn.
So the people of Beth Shemesh are out in the fields harvesting wheat, and they look up and see this cart coming. They see the ark, and the text says they rejoiced at the sight. It was a huge party. They welcomed it back, made sacrifices, just a moment of pure, unfiltered joy. And then, in the middle of this celebration, disaster. 70 people from the town are struck dead, instantly. The joy evaporates and turns into shock and mourning. The very thing they were celebrating had just killed their friends and neighbors. So why? What happened? The text is crystal clear. They died because they looked into the ark.
This wasn't just a box. It was a vessel of immense, untouchable holiness. To actually gaze upon its contents was a fatal mistake, a brutal lesson that divine things can be dangerous. The reaction from the survivors is just pure terror and awe. They ask this question that really gets to the heart of the whole story. Who can possibly stand in the presence of this holy God? They realized, in that moment, that having the ark wasn't about wielding power. It was about the terrifying responsibility of being near something so sacred.
So now, just like the Philistines before them, the people of Beth Shemesh have a huge problem on their hands. The ark was too powerful, too holy, too dangerous for them to keep. They had to find it a new home, and they had to do it right away.
Their solution was pretty simple. Pass the problem on to someone else. They sent messengers to a nearby town with a message that was basically, hey, so the Philistines sent the ark back. It's here with us. Please, come down and take it to your town. You can almost hear the panic in their voices. And this is where the ark finally finds a resting place, for a very long time. This timeline really puts it all in perspective. You've got 7 months of plagues for its captors, a single day of death for its unprepared rescuers, and then 20 years of just sitting quietly in one man's house, guarded by his son.
This whole story leaves us with a really profound and kind of unsettling idea. We usually think of holiness as something that's just good, pure. But this narrative suggests that some things can be so sacred, so saturated with divine power, that they actually become dangerous. It's like a holy fire that can warm you from a distance, but will absolutely consume you if you get too close. And it really makes you wonder, what does it truly mean for something to be too holy to handle?